podcast session this evening. This is Maseno University Christian Union for our podcast session that we usually do every Thursday at 6 p.m. Thank you for tuning in today. Today we are going to discuss about a good topic that encompasses about our life in campus life. And we started this session last week. We had a session about Christian leadership with our campus staff, who was a mission coordinator, but also an usher during his time in Christian leadership, but also in other areas or forums during his time in campus life as well. And we learned from him. And today we just want to have a feel of somebody, of one of our guests, one of our friends who has been a leader before at various capacities in campus, especially in Christian leadership, and just to have a feel of how it is, and to have a feel of how it is to be led, or to have, to be just feel good about people continuing the foundation that you made, especially in your Christian leadership. So we want to learn from him today. So welcome, sir, today in our podcast session. We may start by just introducing yourself and tell us how was your day been.
Yeah, I am grateful. My name is Fadhili, Mwivali. I am a student here at Maseno University, Kisumu campus. I am pursuing medicine. I'm in my final year. I thank the Lord. I am born again and I love Christ. I am a child or a son, a fourth-born son, last-born, a family of four. And I thank God I was born and bred in Kakamega County. And I think ever since I was born, I think my life here on earth has had many faces. But just to conclude it all, my Christianity up to now, I thank God my day has been good. Today we have had a powerful service here in Kisumu campus Christian Union. And I thank the Lord that He has really ministered to our hearts.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. So maybe before we get to Christian, the topic of Christian leadership in campus, when we transited to becoming fourth years and the life that we used to live as third years back in Maseno, there are a lot of people that usually ask this question that how did Fadhili transform? It's not the same Fadhili that we knew back when we were in Maseno Seriba campus. Remember those fights that we usually had in football? Sometimes we will refuse to be defeated. If we are going to be defeated, then we'll just pluck up the post or even take away the ball, you know. So now when we came back here, the guys were saying, I don't think this is the Fadhili that I knew. I think I need to see him, watch him for some time to know if he has really changed. So how was the journey being to transforming? I think during that time, you had a very short temper, like kidogo hivi umeshajaa mambo hii football ikai, you know, such kind of things. And guys really had a lot of attitude towards you, especially in terms of football. So how was the life of transformation? At which point did you think that I think my life is not in line with how I should live as a Christian? And how was the journey being of transformation up to now, this point?
Yeah, I will say that my journey in third year or first year to third year and fourth year, as you say, it's quite different. And I grew up loving football and I used to play. I was also a Chelsea fan at some point. But along the way, you know, you get to a point where, you know, the way God works, it's very different. You get to a point that you settle down and you look at your life, you analyze whatever things that have been going on in your life, and you realize that, hey, I really need some change. And that's when I realized that could this temper, because the temper used only to be during the games. After that, I will have no problem whatsoever with anyone. So I really knew that this thing was not mine. It's not me. Actually, I could not really define myself as a very short-tempered person, because outside football I will just be normal, the normal me. So I think I trusted God in the journey. It was a prayer point for some time. I trusted God that, if it's football, that maybe it's not working for me. It may work for someone, not me. If it's football, then if it's leaving football, let it be. And I think through third year, through the break and coming to this side, I realized that at some point football was not my thing. So slow by slow, I got rid of watching games, playing games, and but at the end of the day, I realized that kumbe it was not that hard, and I trusted God, and I thank God that He helped me walk through. I will not define myself now as someone who has anger issues, and I thank God for that.
Yeah, I think people have really said that the guy has changed, and it's really good. Nowadays I don't see you posting Chelsea updates like you used to do. I remember there's a time that you guys won UEFA with Chelsea, and you guys almost broke my door because I'm a Manchester United fan, and I think it has been a good journey. Probably, how are you managing to live with your friends whom you had a fight with during those times in football? Because I know some of them used to be staying within the same hostel, but also in the same class. How did you used to like reach out to them, and say maybe I'm sorry for how I reacted? How did they pick it up?
Oh, okay. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the fight was only during the games. So even after the game has ended, I will say hi to them. Every time I will meet them, I will say hi, and they will not have a problem. But I used to think, or what will go through my mind was, probably these people have a problem with me, because probably they think over it, and they make it personal with me. But outside the game, we will really talk, we will really converse. But what I would say is that I never thought it was a problem, because after giving Meisha, then it's over. I never used to say sorry. I never said sorry to many of them because of the same. But along the way, I realized that probably I'm hurting people. I don't know. Probably there's someone who I've destroyed or I've made his day worse than it could be by my arguing and by whatever how I reacted. Yeah. So I would say that I never used to say sorry, but it's only that my attitude then. There are times you make mistakes and you don't know. Yeah, but later when you think through it, you now realize, it was that way.
Okay, so I think that has been your journey, even in the development of being a Christian leader. So my next maybe question is, what does it mean? How does it sound, or does it feel to be a Christian leader in a university setting in a broader aspect?
Christian leader in an aspect of university, I would say it's a blessing. It's a blessing to lead in the context of a university, because you get to lead people who are learning in some way. They know what they're doing. They know why they are in campus. At the same time, you have to be able to manage your studies at the same time, because it's more of you as a student and you as a leader, you as someone that should be showing the direction, in as much as you do not have that real training, as opposed to leadership in the setting of a church where maybe someone has gone through a theological course, maybe has experienced some things that will be able to apply. But as a Christian leader, you are taken, as naive as you are, you get into it. That's why I call it a blessing, something you do without necessarily being able or having some qualifications for it. Not some papers to show, but only but your character and your heart. as the only requirements. Yeah.
So, and I think you were a leader before, and nobody can tell us how the leadership. I don't think it can be really manageable to just be picked to be a CEO chair. It has to start from somewhere. Be given like 5 people to manage and see, test your patience. You can guide people. It can be too risky to try someone who's never been a leader, be a Christian leader. So you can maybe tell us how your journey of Christian leadership has been, that has helped you now to grow to being a leader in the campus, maybe starting from your local church, or back or even in the evangelistic thing that you were prior to coming to city campus in city.
I would say my journey of leadership, we have the other kind of leadership, corporate leadership. I never got a chance to serve in that because I had some attitude, especially for the art of prefects and all that. I didn't usually like them, so I never desired to be one. But going back to my local church, I think it began in campus. I was in Weso, and Weso organized a fans drive. They chose me to become a treasurer. I served as a treasurer that time successfully. We managed whatever we did. And having that in the background, I think at my local church they now considered me. There was some time we were organizing a conference, and it's like the real leaders were not there. The people who were supposed to manage the conference were not there. So they thought, why not this one that we have seen a flyer bearing his name, that is the one collecting funds. So they chose me as a treasurer there. So I served there successfully. Coming to campus now, here now in Kisumu campus. At that time I was chosen in an interim executive committee as a prayer coordinator, and after which now I was chosen as the chair. I think even after being chosen as a chair back at home now, I think it goes just like in line. So there now they also thought it wise that I would also be the vice chair of the youth leadership there. So it has been quite a journey, one step at a time. Yeah.
So what are some of these things that you learned that you've always, especially now in the face of, I think the interim time that you served in as the prayer coordinator was relatively short, for some months, probably 2 or 3 months, and now you served in the chairman of the Christian Union of City campus for I think 7 months or 8. Well, first of all, how did it feel to be approached, to be a leader? Do you feel I can make it, guys? Or you first told the person approached you, can you give me time to pray about it or think about it?
Yeah, I think as opposed to other things, in life when you are offered a job opportunity, you applied or you even didn't apply, you don't have a job yet. You get a call that you are required in some office because we're offering you a job opportunity. Usually you'll run there and you'll want to consider it first before you rule it out. On the other side, as I was approached to lead the Christian Union, that is the interim committee, I didn't view myself as a leader per se, but I knew that I loved God, and that was the basis. Because I loved God, I knew that if in case there's anything that will come up that involved Him, then I'll be able to serve Him in whatever way. So when I was approached that time, my heart was not so hardened per se. So I just requested for some time to pray about it, so that I am sure that I am not myself going into it because I know I am committed, but allowing God to help me do whatever my role is at that time.
I think later when you came on, you find that the the dynamics of this CU is very different from the one that you had in Siriba campus. A lot of dynamics that are very strange. And because there were times when I think during that time when we served DD and the time that deliberately make an effort for something to work and they don't work. And they're given people probably never been leaders in other capacities and you have to really tolerate them. And probably what were some of the things that you really had to cope with and maybe accept that you can't do anything about them, you can't change them, and live with them the way they are. What are some of these dynamics in you that you had to really grow with, modify yourself?
I would say that there are quite a number. The CU here is quite, I would say, involving because being able to serve and also serve in many ministries at the same time because of the number that we are blessed with here. I think it was quite challenging to really do both at the same time. You have your studies to deal with, you also have your personal life to live and to think about. I would say whatever I learned through the leadership was quite a lot, and I really blessed God for that. Being able to meet different people who are behaving in different ways, people that you know that in as much as you're praying that the Lord might change them in the way He wants, still you get to know that change doesn't quite just so sudden. You have to be patient. Through the leadership, I learned to be patient with people, to really tolerate people, knowing that it is not me that is changing them, but it's God changing them through the process. Knowing that through this, maybe even not now, maybe later, these people will be better people. They will remember those days that they used to serve and be able to change. Number two is that I learned to be an example. It is so hard to serve without leading as an example. So quite often I will try as much as I can, even the things that I could not be able to. I trusted God to help me become an example, because learning from the aspect of Moses, being able to lead, you have to be the one on the forefront. You have to be the one to make sure that people are passing through the sea. You're the one who is supposed to make sure that you are having some sense of strength. And I learned that leadership, especially Christian leadership, if you don't depend on God, there's nowhere you can really go. About the aspects that I really had to accept that I can't change. Number one was about the growth in number. I really wished, as I was coming into leadership, I really wished that we have like a scenario like in Siriba where people are coming and they have no space to sit. Some are sitting outside, some are looking for chairs somewhere. But I had to accept that, in as much as that is my desire, I don't know what God had for us, because maybe there are many things that God wanted me to learn with the number that He had blessed us with. And that was a thing that I really learned. And going forward, I know if I will be in any position to really advise or to contribute in terms of church growth, I will understand the struggle of having a small number, the blessing of having a small number, and the dynamics of growing even to a bigger number. Yeah.
The lowest moment, my son at this one.
The lowest moment, maybe I have not thought through it, but I would say there are moments where you are overwhelmed with a lot of things. You think through what you're supposed to do within a week, and there are quite a number. You also have your studies to do, and you realize that at some point you have to delegate most of the things, because you can't really manage all of them. I don't think I can point out my very lowest moment, but I would say situations where there are issues you might not be in the best wisdom to handle them. I think those were my very lowest moments, and having to think through them, sometimes involving friends, and having to know how to do it. No, I'm more of collected and reposeful person that I don't really, having experienced this harsh side of me, I didn't want to get back to it. So I am that calm, and there are things you have to handle with a lot of vigor. And those were the lowest moments where I could not do them. And there are things that maybe you cannot also delegate. So you get that at some point you just leave them to take its natural course. You leave it to go to do them. And at some point you will wish that you might have handled the things even better. And there's no chance to really recollect that.
Not about best moment. I think this one you must be having fun.
Yeah.
The one just even now after you now out of the second is now being served. That was my best moment. It keeps reminding you. It's a memory that you'll keep living in for some time. You may have had good moments for many occasions, but this one really stands out. Still keep ringing in your mind.
My very best moment, I would say, I think, as you say, maybe there's one specific, but I can't really, I'm struggling to point up one. But what I will say is that the very, very best moments, I can attribute them to the change that I saw us grow into. The people who I could maybe looking at them before serving and just weighing and seeing whether they could be able to do or not, and getting to learn that their growth in salvation is increasing. I'll lead that to as my very best moment, that indeed, and someone will really point out and say, by the way, you contributed in a way to the way I am today. That was really what I can put out to be my very, very best moment. Leadership, having been able to contribute to changing a person, changing one's life, changing the course of salvation in someone's life. That will be my very best moment that I can really point out.
Well, I think basically I was thinking about, back to our listeners, speaking about Christian leadership in campus, Christian leadership basically means that it's not about the Christian union alone, but we can be leaders even in terms of being class reps or leading even our group discussions, being leaders in the forums of these unions that we have, for example, in our schools. For example, as we have MEDSA, there are those who have those unions for education, for media, and I just want our guests to maybe, which spaces do you think that Christians have really left for the non-believers to occupy, thinking that maybe it is associated with being corrupt, or the places that Christians should not occupy. But then if these people also underperform, still keep blaming them, this person doesn't perform, but Christians really need to occupy this space. Which this space should Christians occupy, especially now in campus life, aside from being leaders in Christian union, which almost everybody can't fit into any.
I will maybe just classify them as one. The corporate world, I believe all the way from a student life. I think as Christians we shy away from being all the way from class representatives to student representatives in the student bodies. You get that Christians, we are afraid that we might change it might affect our salvation. You realize that this is not necessarily true. It is dependent on our own view of this matter. I have a friend who is a good Christian, as a solid Christian, founded well in the world, and at some point he was vying for a position in campus, and he actually got the position. And I am grateful that in the process he was able to still manage being sound and still serve in Christianity, serve God truly. Because I know that the dynamics of how to get the votes, how to get that you are the man of the people, the things you have to do, maybe buying alcohol, getting to those clubs, look for votes. being able to have people who are not necessarily Christians as part of your team that will be campaigning, because they are also more free and they welcome the art. I believe as Christians we need to really occupy these spaces, because in those meetings there are things that are implemented that need a Christian to really come out and speak on behalf of Christians. Yeah, and you'll get that at some point Christians are really needed in all spaces. Might be the way that maybe someone might be able to evangelize to another politician, for example, to be a Christian and to serve in the integrity that really does, leading by examples in these spaces, and being able to really help others also grow in Christianity, welcoming them into salvation, and serving really God in that dimension.
So, and again, now balancing the part of being a leader and also the part of being, especially now, a medical student who takes 6 years in the university. And of course, it requires a lot of energy, a lot of time to read. And how do you balance between these two things, between academics and being a student? Because I understand that even our CU, which we have currently, you really need a lot, especially now when you are now the chair, you really need a lot of sacrifice for things to happen. You have to oversee, and if maybe one party not performing well, you have to really dodge and ensure that things work out. How do you, especially now, it means that all your weekends are occupied. Like, even if we had something fun that your friends have invited you to, you really consider that if I go to this event, maybe something might happen wrong this year. I want it to happen. But also you are concerned about your classes, you may have discussions on this same weekends. You want to go and clerk in the hospital, you want to do your assignments, you want to read for your exams. And how are you really balancing this? Because I'm asking because there's this perception that some medical students have, and maybe those who do courses that requires a lot of reading, and they say, us, we need time to really read, we need a lot of fresh mind, and such kind of excuses, and I really feel bad about them, because you always create time for something that you love. And probably I'm thinking how God is really taking us, and for some of you who have been in this leadership, what are some of your comments that you can advise these people about they can really balance, even coming to church and attending the weekly activities? How are you balancing between these things, and also emotionally and mentally?
Yeah, it's quite a question. One thing that I believed, and I still believe now, is that it goes back to the question of understanding our purpose on earth. You realize that if someone doesn't really understand why he is on earth or she is on earth, he might fail and might have some misplaced priorities. I don't mean to say that academics is lesser, but what I mean to say is that if God really created us as men, we have a purpose to fulfill, and He knows best what is best for us. He knows. For me, I consider it this way: that God knows that I am born again. God knows that I'm going to serve Him in this position, and He also knows that I'm supposed to read. He knows that I have a life to live. I have classes to attend, assignments to do, patients to see in the hospital. And this, I always took it to Him. Not only in prayer, but also in belief and in doing. I will take my time to plan my day, plan my week. And I'll have time for all of these things. One thing that God helped me, because initially, I also used to have the same issue. When I was back in Siriba, I used to believe that, for these day-to-day activities that the CU organized, they were too much for a medical student. And along the way, God helped me understand, it's only 1 hour, and Then I used to spend a lot of time on my phone. If I will average the number of hours I used to spend on my phone, would be at least 4 hours a day. And I realized that what if I cut off these 4 hours and I have just 1 hour to attend? And then that is how I started attending WESO. That is how I started having time to attend these meetings, the CU prayers, mostly on Wednesdays. And coming this other side, it was not an issue for me to attend the things that I could be able to attend. Getting into leadership, of course, the many activities, meetings online, some physical and all that. But going back to the basics, that God is the one who has me here. I'm not here on my own. If I'm here on my own, then I have to plan on my own. I have to worry about my studies. I have to worry about my emotional needs, my social needs, and that to me is quite a lot. If I would really depend on myself, I don't think I could manage. But I thank God that He really helped me through, and it is quite possible. It's possible. It's only in how we think and how we tend to think that these things turn out to be. I would say even now I'm still serving in other positions, and God still is helping me to understand how to balance these matters, because emotionally, socially, these are all important aspects in every Christian, every human being, and also academics, not to forget. So I will say that all these things, the basics is having God at the center of it. If He's not at the center, it is quite something to us. So I think if one will consider God first, believe that He can help us go through it, it's very possible.
I think that's quite something to think of as students. For those who are viewers who think they don't have time for God, who have done it, and they are really progressing well. I think you really tell them that you always get distinctions. But anyway, I think that people who have really, at least we are doing good. It's just a matter of planning ourselves well, as he has said, managing our time well. But also, I think basically extended has been that we stop reading and say that nobody is going to do everything for us. We are doing His work, so He said He's going to make us to pass. Yeah, so it's a matter of planning ourselves. And then, as we finish, maybe our last question to our guest is, how do you balance between humility and influence serving as a Christian leader, especially in campus? Because there are a lot of things that we are good at doing and the Lord has given us the grace to do. And you find people like mentioning, like you say, during my time, I was the only person who could do this, if something is successful and we had like a team, you're leading a team, you now want to ascribe the victory to you. I was actually the one who was leading that team. You don't want to congratulate also this team that you have in that aspect. And there are those who may also want to emulate you as a leader, and they may want to know that how as you Fadhili reached up to this moment that you can balance between medicine and now being a Christian leader, some would think that you are doing. And probably some people will say, according to the way you are, I don't think you can reach this measure that I've reached. You really need a lot of energy. You're trying to make yourselves special. So how do you balance between these after you've been influential, have been known for something that you've done very mighty in a very mighty way? How do you balance between that humility and influence so that you prevent that exaggeration, prevent that pride that Jesus talked about, like the Pharisees used to?
Oh, thank you. First of all, I don't want to say that I'm the most humble person. Yeah, but I would say that pride in its own is something that God resists. It's said in James that God resists the proud. And as a person, basically even aside Christian leadership, I think pride is something we should all be able to try to fight, try to live and forsake. As a leader, being able to maybe balance between humility and influence. I would say, at some point it goes back again to the basics that why you should know the reason why things are working. If, for example, we will organize, let's say, a crusade, for example, we have a missions coordinator, we have a chairperson, a vice chairperson. There are those people who are just circulating the message. There are people who are mobilizing for the event. You realize that in case, for example, I, as the chairperson at that time, say that the one who came up with this idea, it's good because you are the one who did so. But there are many people who have been involved in the process. There are people who have agreed with this concept. There are people who have posted that poster, and because they invited their friends, the people came, and the event was successful. For example, so it goes back to understanding that it's God working through us. Philippians says that it's God working through us, both to obey and to do what God's will is in our lives. So it's understanding that God is the one helping us, not ourselves. If it's God helping us to understand, to work this, that means that God can use any other person. So I don't have really to stand out and say that I am the one who did this. Through, if it was not me, then this and this could have failed. So it's really getting back to understand why even we are really serving God, why really we are even trying to do the things we are doing. Because if it is for God, then God doesn't welcome pride, welcomes more of humility. So having that in mind, that will help us to really be able to encounter pride and be able to be humble in the way that God wishes. Looking at it from God's perspective, not only our own perspective. And then lastly, to them that might wonder how possible it is to really succeed in academics and also serve God. It's really possible. It's really possible. The Bible says that there's nothing that is impossible with God. With God, there's nothing that is impossible. It is all possible. There are people who have done it before. We are not the first ones. There are people who have done it before and have done it even in a better way. So you can also do it in a better way. You can do many things. The Bible says that you can do greater things than even what Jesus Christ did. So are we also, that we can do these things, even as we study, even as we do all these things. Remember, a day has 24 hours, and it's only how we spend each and every minute, each and every second that counts most. Looking back after this time I've been in CU, I would say, not in CU, in campus, I would say there are years I even don't know what I was doing, but along the way, I will count other years as productive and others as not. So it's really possible, it's manageable. With God, it's possible.
Wow. So you've listened to from our former chair. I believe now you have the broad picture. If you listen to the last episode that we did, part 1 of our last week with our CS, you can now pick the broad picture with somebody who has been in the exec and is now, for example, our CS is now as same stuff in the focus ministry. You can really balance, can see the different phases of life and how people really pick different experiences. So that goes out to you, or maybe you have been approached to be a leader somewhere. Just accept the role, because probably somebody has seen that there's something you can do, and there's no one who gets to into leadership position with a complete mindset that you are just complete. Maybe the Lord wants to work on something on you that is a weakness to you, but really wants to work on it. So we've come to the end of our session, and I really thank you so much for tuning in. I want to give our guest maybe for some 20 seconds, what word do you have maybe to our fellow campus students or any other person who's viewing this our session today about just basically being a Christian leader in campus, whether it's in the Christian Union, in the corporate world? What advice do
it's possible that you might think that you are a lower person, you are not having the experience, but allow God to use, try God and use, try and serve and see what God will turn you into. He's the one that created you. He's the one that knows where you are going. Remember, you don't know what tomorrow carries, but God knows whatever tomorrow has in stock for you and for me. So be encouraged. Leadership is possible in whatever capacity, be it being that usher in church, be it being that chairperson, that Bible study leader, that estate fellowship leader, that prayer coordinator. Do it to God, and indeed you will see how God works in human beings.
Wow, thank you so much for that, our guest Fadhili Mwivali. So we've come to the end of our session today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If maybe you have a question that you'd like us also to address about what we've been talking about since last week or about today, you can just drop it down in the comments, or any topic that you want us to discuss. We are open. We can have time and discuss about it, so just drop a comment there on the comment section that I want people to discuss about this topic or to tackle this question. Always be open to do that. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe if you never subscribed, so that you can get a link if maybe we posted a new session. You can have time to really enjoy these sessions. Otherwise, thank you so much. Bye bye till next time. Thank you so much.